Content warning. This episode contains discussions about stillbirth and infant loss, which some listeners may find distressing or triggering. Listener discretion is advised. In today's episode, our guest bravely shares her personal experiences with the tragic loss of her son, who was stillborn. She discusses the film she is creating to process her grief and shed light on this difficult topic that affects so many of us, but is rarely discussed openly. We understand this content may be emotionally challenging for some. If you are struggling with issues related to stillbirth, infant loss, or grief, please know that you are not alone. We have included a list of resources and support services in the show notes of this episode. Welcome to Filmmaking Framed, your video podcast uncovering the realities of filmmaking. I'm your host, Daniel Hughes.
And I'm your host, Tom Dexter.
With us today is Abigail Coniah, actress and stuntwoman whose recent work includes ITVX's Passenger. She's also worked on various commercials and is producing her first feature film. Great to have you with us, Abigail.
Amazing to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
So let's start with, how did you get into the industry? What inspired you to get in?
Oh, wow. What a big question. So I did a A-level at St. Charles College in performing arts. I had an amazing teacher. I must shout her out. Her name is Miss Nash, Katrina Nash. She was amazing. And I really enjoyed it. I realized that I was quite good at performing. I'm quite a loudmouth, as you can probably tell. And it went really, really well. Like, we did a play and I had to play Idi Amin, which is very controversial. I played a man. It was great. And I asked how I could get more involved. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. And I had a family member who actually knew John Boyega. I don't know if he even really knows he's like part of this story. And we became friends. And he told me about a group called Real Drama. Shout out to Real Drama. And I joined Real Drama. And we did short films and things like that, a little bit of actors training. And I really loved it. And one day John called me. He said, can you come and be an extra in Attack the Block? And I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Of course I will. So I did it. That just changed the game for me. It was amazing. I was on set properly for the first time. Just the glitz and glam of it for me as a young kid was just amazing. And I just looked at John and what he was doing and thought, I really want to do more of this. So that's kind of how it started.
Asking the question you are never to ask a woman. How old were you when you worked on Attack the Block?
Oh, good question. Maybe like 17 or something.
Yeah, I can see that being really inspiring.
17 or 18. Yeah, so it was like, for me, it was like such a big deal. I mean, I said nothing, but I'm in the DVD. I bought the DVD, and at the end, you see me. So yeah, that was really inspirational for me. And then I think the love for the arts kind of grew more like from there, yeah.
What's your first impression of being on a set? What are the things that really stuck with you, and what did you take away from that?
That there were so many people involved. I just never imagined that there were so many people on set, and how long it takes to just make one scene. We were there for hours and hours. I mean, we were cold, but I was just happy to be there. So I guess I didn't really know like how long it took and how many people were behind film. So that was really good, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that surprises everyone who comes to it. And TV comedy, which tends to have the best translation of hours spent versus what it appears on screen, 10, 11 hours of filming will often translate to about 6 minutes on screen.
It's crazy.
And on, feature films, it could be 2 days of filming for 3 seconds on film.
Mm-hmm.
And animation's even worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you'll spend ages on animating something and you'll end up with 3 seconds.
That's crazy.
For a week's work. But yeah, I mean, something we always talk about, which is that, people talk about the glamour of the film industry, and there's a lot of, working with amazing, charismatic actors, you're seeing incredible things, incredible stunts, and whatever it is. But there is that mundanity, which actually is a huge part of it.
Yep.
But people are working hard and they love what they do. Mm-hmm. You don't normally mind, and there's boring bits about every job. But I often say that people coming into the industry, you have to kind of really love it because it is really hard work and can be really long hours and can be,
And so what were the next steps after Attack the Block?
So I started doing extra work. Yeah, that's it. So I actually met Damson Idris during that time because a few of us were extras and they had us in this green room and we were waiting for ages and we started improvising. So a lot of us were just improvising, messing around, and it was good fun. And then I asked people, like, what do you guys do? And some people said that they did extra work. So a few people told me about some extra agencies. I joined some extra agencies.
Would you be able to list them for the people?
Yeah. So Casting Collective, they're really, really good. They're really amazing. Universal Extras also get really great gigs. I think I did a music video one, Talent Talks, years ago. I just started joining them all, honestly. I was getting work left, right and centre. And I think that really helped me to just like aim for more. It's really weird because when you don't have much experience behind you, you're really happy to just get in the room, right? But then if you really want to get to the top, there's something inside of you that's almost like in pain that you're not the main character. So yes, you are a supporting artist, but you're happy to be there. You're getting paid. You're getting really awesome food on the bigger sets as well. But then you're like, I really wish that I was that person. So I started doing a few stage plays, short stuff with like a few companies here and there. And in my second year of uni, my best friend died.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. He was an amazing guy. He went to do missionary work and he ended up drowning in the Amazon river, which was really crazy. And I started thinking about what I really wanted to do with my life. And for years, I was an athlete. So I've competed for GB. I did shot put and I was quite good, but it didn't really bring me much money. And it was quite hard to carry on without enough support. So I thought about what I wanted to do with my life, and someone told me about a group called Generation Arts.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined Generation Arts, and it's like I think we did like a 7 or 9 month program, training and things like that. And then they said if they were going to give people an opportunity to apply for drama school. So I thought about it, and I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of like done with uni now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I had to like hand in my dissertation because I did like a gap year after what happened with my friend. So I thought I'd go for it. And said they would give us some free auditions, and I ended up auditioning for I think 5 places, and I got into every single drama school that I applied for, which is probably a really good sign because people told me that they had been applying for years and I just new to the game. I was like, really? Did people do that? I got into every single one. And I ended up getting a dance and drama award. So I had a scholarship to Aura. So I went to Aura. I did an MA there in acting. And that was very interesting. I learned a lot there. So in my last year, when I had to do my dissertation, I chose to make a film. So I made a mockumentary about my mum. It's on YouTube. You can check it out. It's called Afri-ish, Grace's Journey. So I just did it about my mum when she first came here and just like the hopes and dreams that I had, and just kind of took the mick a bit out of the stuff that she used to say to me and things like that. And then I just realized like I'm quite good at this stuff. I better just carry on. Got an agent.
What is the process of getting an agent? Did they find you? Did you find them? What was that like?
So for me, we had a showcase, but even before the showcase, I actually bagged my agent. There was this society called like the Catholic Christian Artist Society or something, I can't remember. And we got invited to it. And we got told there would be like agents there and things like that. So I was like, well, yeah, I'm a Christian, I'll go. Yeah, and I'll just go and listen. And I ended up meeting Esther Charkham, who she used to be a casting director, but she also now has an agency, and that's who I was with. So I ended up meeting her and then invited her to come and see my show, and then that's how I got signed. So a lot of people will get signed through having showcases at drama school, but you can also send emails or your show reel to agents. Another way you can go about it is that there are a couple companies that do showcases, so you can audition to be in a showcase, and then you get to perform probably in front of like a group of professionals. Sometimes it'll be like casting directors and agents and things like that. So there's a few different ways to get an agent. Yeah.
And how have you found it having an agent? What makes up a particularly good agent?
one thing I will say is never to sign up to an agency that requires you to pay money first, like up front. There are a lot of agencies out there, unfortunately, that are taking advantage of like people who don't know. Yeah. So they'll sometimes say, oh, give us a small fee so that we put you on our website, or pay this amount to jump on board. And you just don't want to go with anyone who starts like that, because it's probably not a very good sign. So good communication. I think it's really important that your agent understands your brand and your vision. So what you want for yourself. So I explained to my agent that, hey, listen, I'm a person of faith. There's certain things that I wouldn't want to do. I'm not looking to be naked and things like that. And some agents will be like, oh, that's very limiting. Why would you not want to do that? Or I wouldn't want to represent you if you don't want to do this or that or this or that or whatever it is. So for example, I've got a friend who's vegan, and she won't promote any brand that's to do with eating meat and things like that. So her agent understood, but the one she had before didn't, you know? So some people say that's quite limiting. So I would say go with an agent that understands your branding and that has really good communication, because sometimes you can have an agent and actually never, ever meet them. It's very so some agencies will like to get to know you personally, and you can meet up for coffee with your agent, but some of them it's like you're on their books, they're not going to meet you, we don't really have time, we need to have a really good communication and working relationship. So yeah, looking for someone with good communication I think is very, very key.
So it's that agency then that isn't meeting all the people in their books, which does make sense because some of these agents have huge books, but they take your sort of show reel, your CV, and they just keep an eye out for jobs to put you forward. Or as I know, because we do a lot of casting at Centroid, that sometimes someone will reach out to the agent and say, is this person available? So it might be that they're managing it that way.
I've had 3 agents now, and the agent I have now, I've never physically met her, but we speak on the phone, and she has a very clear outline of the things that I want for myself and how I see myself. But that's because she's asked me loads of questions. So we've had phone calls, or we go back and forth on emails, and I will turn down things. This is another thing, is when you first start, you're so excited that you'll probably say yes to everything. And I think that's another area that you need to be really careful. I have a friend who did a very compromising job when he first started out, and he can't get rid of that footage now. So you have to really think about, how you see yourself.
It's not just the compromising stuff, but also, is there a risk of being typecast? So if you only did certain roles that weren't ones that you were interested in, that suddenly you only do that, or you're more interested in working in film, but you take theatre roles because they come up, and now suddenly everyone knows you for theatre, and they'll keep hiring you for theatre, but you can't get into film as easily but that's what you wanted to do. That
can 100% happen. I mean, I'll take myself for example. Yeah, a lot of the time I was put up for funny roles. In real life, I'm a bit of a laugh, but I'm a big black girl. And a lot of the time, a lot of plus size women get put up for like comedy roles, or you get put up for kind of like urban things, So I find that sometimes I've had people say to me, oh, I'm very surprised how well spoken you are. And I'm like, why? Like they didn't really expect me to have this vibe or speak this kind of way. And I got asked a lot of the times, like, can you do that, yeah, bruv, in it, bruv stuff? And I was like, I'm black. I was born and raised in an estate. That's probably what people expected from me. So I was getting those kind of roles. But what I really wanted was really deep emotional roles, or like to play authoritative figures and things like that. But I wasn't getting those kind of things. I was always getting like urban girl, London, girlfriend of drug dealer, funny girl, fat, sassy, like big girl, proud of her curves, like the same kind of thing. And that was getting a bit annoying. I think with the whole film versus theatre thing, I started in theatre and I love theatre, but there's just something so amazing for me about film. I feel like you can go really deep into a story. You have the set to back you up, and the changing of scenes and other characters. You have more time to get deeper in with characters. So for me, I really wanted to make the transition into film, and I found that really difficult. I don't really know why. It just didn't really happen so organically for me. So I guess when I started doing commercials, I was happy to finally get on the TV screen.
I think it is kind of that typecasting thing. So when we cast for motion capture, we need to see that people have done motion capture. And if they haven't, I need to, perhaps if they've at least done some motion capture training or something like that, then I can go, okay, great, we can put them forward to a client to be cast. And if I haven't seen that on their CV, I go, I have no basis to know whether they could do it. And there's a very good chance they can because they're a talented performer or whatever it is. But I don't have any basis of that. And when you've got a lot of options and not a lot of time, you're more likely just to filter by they've done that before. So it could have been, I'm just hypothesizing, but it could have been that if someone's only got theatre on their background, you don't know that they can perform in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And it is a different skill set. So it probably comes down to that.
Yeah, I think that's got something to do with it. You said something that reminded me of something. When I was in drama school, we did a TV part of our course, right? And I remember when they first put us on screen, they told us that we would probably see that we have habits we never realized we were doing. I thought, no, I'm fine. They put me on screen and I was doing this all the time. And it was really weird because I couldn't work out why I was doing it. Like, can you see that you're doing that? And I argued in the beginning until we did about 5 takes and I just kept going like that. And they asked me, why are you doing that? I said, I have no idea. So you have to get rid of certain habits. And I think when you do theatre, a lot of the time you're used to things being really big. You need the person at the back or in the gods to be able to like see your facial expression or your arms. And when you come to TV, you need to learn how to make it really small. And there's a little small movements that you can make that can make such a big difference. And sometimes transitioning can be very hard. So often I find, or people say, that a lot of people who have really good like TV experience, they can go into theatre so easily because they just have to make things bigger. But people who are used to doing theatre sometimes find it hard to do TV because now everything has to become a lot smaller. It's harder to train that.
That's really interesting. And just an experience of me on camera is this podcast, and I can say that it's definitely been true where we've looked back and I've gone, what the hell am I doing with my hands?
Yeah, there's a particular famous actor, which I'm not going to name, who I'm not a fan of his film and TV work because I find his actions are very exaggerated, and I'm like, I can see that he'd be a fantastic theatre performer, but for me personally, it doesn't translate because it feels over the top.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I can now think of a famous actor I could say the same thing about, actually. Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was challenging making that transition from theatre to film, and we've discussed about that they are different films, different skill sets, but obviously you have now had film and TV work, and you mentioned that you had to go to the commercial route, so that was to get you on the set. Was that how the journey went for you, and then from commercials you were able to, or were there other steps in that process?
Yeah, that's how it happened for me. I was able to get some commercial stuff, and I think maybe people believed in me a bit more. Well, my agent at the time was very honest. She was like, I'd love to put you up for stuff for film, but you don't have anything. So we need to start with commercials. And I'm just like, I don't want to do commercials. I mean, some people would be like, that's amazing, yes. But at the time, I was like, I just want to do film. Like, I don't mind commercials. But people like commercials because most commercials is really good money. But it really depends because you might do a whole day shoot. You might have a really big scene. And then when the advert actually comes out, you have 1 second. So then it's like, how am I supposed to put that on my show reel? You know, that 1 second that I was in the whatever commercial it is. That does happen. So maybe you thought in your mind, great, I finally have more airtime. Your commercial comes out, you've got 3 seconds. You need to get another one. You need to get another one. You need to get another one. So that by the time you actually have a show reel, all those 1 seconds or 3 seconds or 10 seconds actually adds up to something.
And I think that highlights a really good point about it takes a lot of patience to make it as an actress, because to build that reputation, it's a lot of very small moments that make a career.
Yeah. I remember an agent said to me, I was 23 years old. Oh, Abigail, you're not going to get much work now. Probably going to get work in your 30s. I was genuinely so offended.
What was their argument?
They said that they felt that there's not as many actors who are female and black in their 30s. So by the time I get to my 30s, I'll have loads of work. And I just didn't understand that because I just thought there's loads of roles I could do. But weirdly, I hate to say it, that person was quite right. And that's what ended up happening for me. I don't know if it's also because it took me a while to kind of get more credits and get more jobs. I think also I've grown as a person. I think when you're young, you just want to do anything. And you just want to get in there. You have so much energy. You're so excited. And that's amazing. But it definitely needs to be channeled somewhere. And you need to kind of know yourself or know the things you want to go up for. And I'm just going to be very real. There just isn't enough work for people that look like me. I'm black and I'm female, but I'm also plus size. So the average person maybe in a film doesn't look like me. So there just wasn't as much work for me, which is why I started thinking very differently and trying to think about making my own stuff and transitioning.
And so you mentioned making that transition, making your own stuff. Would you be able to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I started doing stunt work, which surprises a lot of people. But I think it's because of I'm quite blessed in that I've been able to double some awesome actresses who do look a lot like me. And there's not many women my size or black that do stunts. There's actually not even many black women on the stunt register. I mean, I'm not even on the stunt register yet. It takes a lot of training, a lot of years. But bringing it back to what you were saying, that opened my eyes into other areas. So I thought, well, I don't just have to stick with acting. I can now maybe do some stunts. And people keep saying, write your own stuff. And I just didn't want to. I think I couldn't be bothered. I also doubted my own ability until I wrote this short play and got someone to play it at like a 5-minute, it was like a 5-minute play festival. And everyone said that my writing was quite good. So I thought maybe I should start trying to write. And I had a very dramatic thing happen in my life and I lost my son. My son actually died in my arms. It was a bit of medical negligence. And I don't know if you know this, but black women are 5 times more likely to die or have their child die in childbirth. And I had a very horrific experience. And I kind of lost myself for a bit. I didn't know really what to do. I just felt a lot of pain about losing my son. I think the way everything happened to me was so dramatic, and I saw him die. That was very, that's a lot to see a human being lose their life and that human being come from you. And after I started to heal and get better, I just felt like, I kind of almost like owed it to my son and to myself, to my family, to God, like for getting me through it, because I actually went into a really dark place mentally and I kind of just lost myself and I was deeply depressed. I mean, I was so deeply depressed that I was driving my car and thought about letting go of the wheel when I was driving like 70 miles per hour or something in Greenwich. It's just so unlike me because I'm very happy as a person and I have great faith and have a nice community. But I think a lot of things happened around the time of me losing my son with like friendships and other things and just not getting the support that I needed at the time that I just lost it all. But the great thing about it, I say it's the greatest and worst thing that has ever happened to me because I got through it. And now that I got through it with the help of God, thank God, I prayed a lot about things. I read my Bible. I cried out and asked God to help me. And I got through it. The fact that I got through it, I felt like, oh my gosh, if I can get through this, why can't I write? Why can't I do something with myself? What all these things that I've been so scared of, like I explained to somebody actually yesterday, I feel like I was scared of my own greatness. It was like, I wasn't really scared of the things I couldn't do. I was scared of the things that I really wanted to do, that I knew that I could do. But because the dreams were so big, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Oh no, it's not going to work. Oh no, people won't like it. Oh no, what if the people who don't like me won't like it? It was just like so much going on in my own head.
You're limiting yourself.
Yeah, that I was limiting myself. But I was like, no, my son's called Nathaniel Love. And I was like, I've got to do this for Nathaniel. I have to do this. So I started thinking, right, if I'm so stuck about what to write, why don't I just write about him? Why don't I just write about his experience that I had with him, with the hospital, with the doctors, the people telling me to terminate him and this and that and everything else that happened. And I did. So even like I think last year at some point, I have an amazing friend who I want to shout out called Thomasin Adepeju. He is a director, a very good one, award-winning, he's amazing. And he wanted to make a film and I said I'd help him produce it. And we actually have Olan Kolade, the DOP of Rye Lane. He shot the film. We shot in VHS. So it looks a bit crazy, I can't lie. It's amazing. We have a showing coming up very soon at the BFI for it. And I helped him produce that and realized I'm pretty good at this. I think I need to do more. So I started thinking, what are the things that I could maybe do to try and do a bit more, producing? And I met an amazing guy who told me about NFTS's course. So I just signed up. I prayed about it. I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I also work as a teacher full time, which is insane. And I was like, if I get on this course, I'm going to use this as a sign that this is what I'm supposed to do. So I applied for the course and I talked about my son and my aim and hope to write a film about him and my experience and just kind of I feel like child loss is such a taboo subject that people don't like talking about it. Whenever you see it in the film, it's like, here's a bit of blood. Oh, she lost a baby. Oh, she's sad for one day. It is not like that. It is horrendous. It's so much more gory. It's disgusting. It's depressing. It's happy at times. It's a whole bunch of emotions. And I thought I really want to put that into this film. So I was like, I'm going to need to learn more. I think that's another thing I want to say is if you don't have enough of a skill in a certain area and you know it, don't be afraid to go and learn. Pay for it. Sometimes you won't care about it unless you really put your money in it, and the NFTS course is not cheap. So I signed up, I applied, prayed on it, and I got it. And I was like, right, that's a sign. I've got to do this film now. And on the course at the moment, we had to pitch our film and in the process of writing the feature, but I'm going to do a short first as a proof of concept and to gain some funding and then see how it goes from there. I spoke a lot, sorry.
No, that's awesome, and thank you for opening up. And one thing I want to kind of echo is this is going to sound strange, but the flip side to having something that absolutely knocks you on your ass is you can go, if I can get back up after this, these like day-to-day problems are not worth being feared.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you go, I've just had a contrast with what actually matters in the world, and it takes, and it's sad that it's often the case, but it takes something of that scale to go, this is how big my problems actually are day to day. And I can only express my admiration for picking yourself back up with loved ones and for having the courage to tell your son's story.
Thank you so much. The thing that's very hard is there's a part of me that's like super proud of myself, but there's also another side that's like, really? Did it take that for you to actually do these things? Like, why couldn't you do them before? So I think there's a small voice in my head that's like, I think it also highlighted my problem. I was like a major people pleaser. Like, if I wanted everyone to like me, I wanted everyone to be okay with my choices. I wanted everyone to be my friend. So this whole thing just knocked me into a corner of darkness, but also made me reflect so much that I didn't need as many people. I didn't need as many connections. I didn't need to keep chasing after maybe things that just had no worth. Also my view on money and what success looked like really changed. and like family and friends. So I've like really connected deeper with a lot of people that I love, you know, and I don't spend much time with people that don't make me feel good about myself, you know. And I also thought a lot about like how I respond to other people and other women, you know. Before I would see someone who's pregnant and be like, oh my God, so cute, can I touch it? Or just like, you know, wanna, and now I'm like, no, you can't do that. It's a very personal journey and you just don't know what's going on. Like people lose their lives by, you know, giving birth, and it's just a very sensitive area. So I'm very, there's a part of me that's very happy that I've become so much more compassionate towards women and like mothers. I understand the journey. I understand that giving birth is like, I mean, the pain is just next to nothing else. It's insane. It's very difficult to describe. But when you also see your baby, the love that you feel is like so hard to describe. It's an amazing and beautiful feeling. So I just understand women a lot more now. It also helped me with my relationship with my mum, because I'm like, wow, you went through all of that. And like when I was a kid, I'd like be rude to you sometimes. Like, how dare I? You know what I mean? Yeah, I just spent a bit more time with my mom and things like that. So I feel sometimes it does take a really big life thing to happen to you for you to like analyze and get proper perspective. But, you know, and don't despise hard starts in life. That's what I would say. Like, even talks about this in the Bible. I think certain things that happen to us to build us and to make us strong. And it's very difficult to get to that point. But when you're there, you realize why, you know, God has allowed certain things to happen in your life, because it's literally shaped who you are going to be tomorrow. And maybe there could have been another path, but maybe you weren't listening, or maybe it took long, or maybe it was that path that you needed. But I think I look at things like this. If I don't try, it's 100% not happening. But if I try, there's 50% it could happen. So I might as well just try, you know? And I think we all have things in our lives that are like really difficult or dramatic or really hard. But I think it's all about how we react and respond to them. Not everyone's going to have the same reaction as me. And if somebody, I mean, got depressed for the rest of their lives and turned to a different lifestyle, I would not blame them for that, because it's very difficult. And I would understand and I would empathize. But if you do have, you know, some sort of strength, or you can gather it somehow, anyhow, through a friend, through strangers, through someone who meets you on the bus, just grab onto it and try to use that as a stepping stone to get to where you really want to be. And where you really want to be may change, you know. When you have a certain perception, or you haven't really been through certain things, where you want to be might be up here. And maybe then when something happens, it's like, oh, actually I have more peace here. Or maybe to the left or to the right, or another country, or whatever it is. I feel like our life experiences really do shape us. But I think we shouldn't run away from that. I think we should embrace it. Because I feel, I heard a quote one day that was something about, if there was no, it's basic along the lines of, if there's no evil in the world, you can't really recognize the good. And then I also heard someone say this at church. It was like, roses are very beautiful, but you have to remember that they have thorns too. So it's like, we're able to recognize when something is so good when we can compare it against the bad. And I can look at my life now and be very grateful for what I have, because I know the darkness that I came from. So I think being grateful is something I would employ all of us to try and take into our hearts a bit more, especially in this industry, because we get so many rejections. You get so many no's. You get people telling you that you're not good enough constantly, you know? And there has to be something inside of you that drives you enough to shut that away and to be like, oh, actually, that's not how I am, or that's not what I see myself as. People are constantly telling you what you are. Oh, you're too big for that role. You're not quite the right person. Or you don't have the right look. Maybe in 5 years you'll be good enough. They tell you things all the time. So much negative thoughts come into you that you have to try and combat them with the positive ones. I mean, I once went to an audition. It was the weirdest experience of my life. It was in Camden somewhere. I can't even remember the director's name. But I always think, I hope he remembers me. So I walked into a room and I was auditioning to be a waitress in this film. I walked in and everyone was looking at me. It was really weird. It's like I walked in and went silent. Everyone was just like, you know, like it was really weird. And I was like, oh, where's the director? Or, who can I speak to? They're like, oh, over here, come speak to us. They're like, oh, what's your name? Like, Abigail, like, tick my name or whatever. And the director comes over to me. He says, excuse me, how do you know about this audition today? I said, I got a breakdown sent to my email, and I saw the casting call and I responded and I got told to come in. And he was like, well, as you can see, this is, I don't really think this is the right place for you because it's kind of a Caucasian vibe. I was like, what? And this is like a room full of like loads of white people, which I'm used to. I mean, I'm a black British actor, and a lot of the time I'm maybe the only black person in the room, and I don't really care. Like, I'm not bothered by that. Like, I don't wear a sign on my head that says I am black. I don't really remember that I am black until you keep like telling me or whatever it is. I'm just me. I'm just Abigail. And I was really surprised by that. And everyone looked at me because he said it in front of everyone. And he was like, well, can you look around? He was like, and I just thought, I don't understand. I said, but this role is for waitress. Anyone could be a waitress. He was like, yeah, it's not really the vibe we're going for. I said, well, I've actually come from very far, so I'm going to audition. That's what I said to him. And he was like, okay, fine. Well, you can go over there then, wait, and you can audition to be a music technician. I said, what's a music technician? He was like, kind of like a DJ, kind of not. So I was like, I don't understand. So he told me to stand in a corner and just pretend I was on decks. And I was like, yeah, thank you, bye. And I left there, and I remember closing the door, and I thought, I'm so filled with emotions that I can either cry right now or I'm going to leave here feeling stronger. And I went outside. I took a massive deep breath. I was like, I am not going to shed tears for that man. And I'm not going to let him get to me. Everything he said to me, I'm just going to cancel. And I'm just going to walk away from there. And I hope he remembers me because I will do well one day. And I left.
And I hope he hears this.
Yeah, I
and
hope
goes,
he does
oh,
too.
that was me. I'm a terrible person.
I'm a horrible human being. Yeah, that was not great. But that was like my proper first experience of like racism in the industry. And I don't know. That I walked away from that thinking, gosh, wow, is that what people really think? I can't even be a waitress.
I was wondering if we could talk a bit about how you turn such a personal story into a script. From my experience training as a producer, it can be a fine line between telling the story that you really want to tell and also trying to remain objective so that you're telling a story. So even if it's not factually exactly what happened, you might need to change something to make a story work.
Yeah.
How have you found infusing your own personal story into a script?
Oh, it's been really hard. I mean, first of all, I took forever to even start. And it's not because I had nothing to say. It's just because of the emotions attached to it that I'd be like, okay, fine, today I'm going to start writing. And I'd just be like, like just crying, trying to write one scene. I thought, I can't do this. I'll try again next week. And it'll be the same thing, like for months. It was killing me. And people kept asking me, are you writing the script? And I'm like, I can't even write a page. Like, how am I supposed to write this film? This is just awful. So someone said to me, write it in the pain. It was my best friend. And I was like, what? And she's like, just keep writing. Cry, but just keep writing. So I was like, I'll try that. So there was this one particular scene that is like the most painful part for me. And I was just crying, writing this. And I quite like using pen and paper sometimes to get my thoughts down, and then I transfer to a laptop. So for this particular scene, I just needed the strength to write something. So I wrote something down, cried through it, and there was like, tears on the page. And I was like, now I'm ready to go on my laptop. So I just started writing. And then I thought to myself, this as a story weirdly doesn't really make much sense or doesn't flow because there's so much going on and happening. How can I also somewhat make this I want to say entertaining, but also real and personal and not just about what happened? Because I think when I started writing, I was like so angry with the NHS. I was just so angry with like the nurse that spoke to me. I was so angry with the consultant that dealt with me. I was like focusing on getting that part of the story. Then I remembered, no, actually, I can tell the story of many women, not just me. So I started, and what happened was I posted about my son's death and my experience on Instagram. Some people are not happy about this. You know, even some members of my family were like, why are you posting this? Why are you writing personal things? And I must admit, I did overshare. And I guess there were certain things I probably shared that I should have like probably spoken to my husband about, because, you know, he's also involved. He also has feelings. But I was like, I need this as an outlet. And I remember speaking to him about it. And he's such a lovely guy that he understood, even though it was a different way that he was dealing with it. So I just started oversharing and talking about it, and me doing that gave me so much freedom. But what it did was I just got thousands of messages. Like, it was like every day people were messaging me, not to just say sorry, but to tell me that they had lost a child. And I was shocked, because some of these people I was very close to, and I never knew that they went through that. So one person said, I lost a child on last week. I lost a child last month. I lost a child 2 years ago. Oh, Abigail, do you remember that time that I wasn't really speaking much and we couldn't go on that holiday? That's because I lost a baby. I'm like, what? So I'm like, there's so many families that have gone through this type of loss but are not willing to speak about it. That's like, I actually want to now tell their story too, because a lot of people, they don't want to because of like shame, or they're very private. There's different reasons. And there's also different ways and reasons that people have lost children. Some people, it's like they have a medical condition that they don't want anyone to know about. So if they mention it, they have to also mention that. So I feel like this film is not just my film. It's the film of a lot of women. So I think I've put like a tagline. It's like, so the film's going to be called Pushchair. I'm still trying to figure out whether that's going to be the actual name for the feature. But for the short, which is the proof of concept, it's going to be called Pushchair. And I've put one woman's story. I put something, one woman's experience, but a story of many before her, something like that. And that's what this film is. It's not just what happened to me. It's the stories that I'm now hearing. And I'm going to be holding a forum soon, just hearing more stories. I've heard from lots of women, all different ages, young, old, middle-aged, and they've just told me all the different ways and that they've lost their children. Some people, it's happened multiple times. And there is an amazing charity that do a service called Saying Goodbye. I'd like to shout them out because I'm so grateful to them. They do a service for babies who have lost their lives, and the parents can come and light a candle for their child, and they'll ring a bell for the child that you lost. So you write your family name, and they'll read out your family name or the child's name, and then ring a bell. And I thought that was quite nice because you know, a lot of people wanted me to get over the death of my son really quickly, like he just never existed because he was a baby. And unfortunately, I actually lost him right before they say he's viable. I don't agree with that stuff, but I understand where they say they're coming from. Medically, they feel like before a certain time, this human being, who is a human being, is not really a human being. Matter, that they're fetus, there are, you know, all the different names. And I lost him at 5 months, right before we crossed over into the stage of viability. So he wasn't able to go on an incubator and things like that. So when they wrote a letter about him, they didn't call him a child. They didn't call him a baby. They like called him like a fetus or something. And I was just so upset. And I had a lovely nurse who rewrote a certificate for me, but put his name. And, you know, that made me feel like, wow, he exists. So I guess I went to that service because, like, at least someone is acknowledging that this child existed, you know, because everywhere else, everyone's like, oh, you'll be fine, get over it, just you'll have another baby, or you'll be a mum one day. And comments like that really got to me because I'm like, no, but I'm a mum now. Like, do you know what I mean? I went through this process. I actually physically gave birth to this child. I am a mum. My son is just in heaven, you know? So I think I started realizing that when people lose a child, people are quick to want the person to get over it. And often it's not because they're being horrible. I think they just don't want the person to be sad anymore or to dwell on it. So they're kind of like, have another one and then you can get over it. But it doesn't really work like that, you know? So anyway, I went to this Saying Goodbye service, and I remember when they rang the bell, I just burst into floods of tears because I was like, wow, like I've lost this human being and he existed. So coming back to writing, I also want my son to exist. I don't want him to just be a baby that died in the film. So I'm writing the film as if he was always there. So he will now have a character in this film. And I guess that's my way of, maybe that's a bit of therapy for me, that like, yeah, he actually did exist in this world. So it's very difficult, coming back to what you said, to write about such a personal experience. I think sometimes it does require maybe taking a break from it all. I was very emotional. I was very angry with a lot of things, with a lot of people, with myself. I asked if I blamed myself for a while. Oh, did I not do this? Could I not have done that? And I just needed a break from all the crazy. So I took some time out. I went to Portugal for a while just to breathe and be somewhere else. I spent time with people that I loved. I hardly socialized, which was not me at all. Just became a bit of a loner. I did a bereavement course with a church called HTB. They have a really great counseling service, and they offered it to me for free, which I really appreciate and thank them for, because I had a breakdown at church. I was having breakdowns everywhere in public. It was crazy, and people don't know how to handle that.
Have you been able to share the script with family and friends and get feedback, or is it still difficult because the subject's so raw?
Some people. So I've not shared the whole thing with people. It just certain scenes, because I'm still working on it, and it's changing all the time. I guess also because I'm healing. So certain things I wrote in the script out of anger, like I'm going to expose this person. I've written a character about them or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe the hospital staff and just certain things. I realized that, no, that's not really serving the story. That's just my own pain. So you have to kind of decipher, is this part of the story? Does it feed the story, or are you just angry? You know what I mean? Are you just wanting to get back at the world, get back at someone, make a dig? You don't really need to do that.
I was wondering, with the shorts, do you have a director attached, or are you going to direct it yourself?
Oh no, I'm not directing it myself.
So have you got a director attached, and what's it like being able to find a director that can tell the story in a way that they have their own vision for it, but also that it matches with what you're trying to say?
So I won't mention this person's name, but I have had a conversation with a really awesome director about this, and she showed some interest. She's actually a mother herself, and I think it's very important that whoever directs this understands this world. So I am choosing that the director be a female, and someone preferably who has had a child, because I think initially I wanted to play the main character, and I will be doing that in the short, but for the feature I do have someone in mind, a really amazing actress, and I just feel that there should be some sort of connection, or someone who can relate, just so that they can really get the most out of the scenes. When you don't understand something, if you see it happening, you're like, oh, I think that looks okay, but no, I need it to be raw, I need it to be real. So I want someone who's experienced, maybe, being a mom or giving birth, or, just the woman troubles that we had. So, I want a woman to direct this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And
For producers, I don't really, I'm probably going to be one of the producers. Well, I mean, I will. I don't mind getting men on board, obviously, but I just think that's an important decision in really getting out what I'm trying to portray across. So I want people to go through an emotional roller coaster. I really want that, because that's what happens. That's just real. It's not just, grief is so difficult. All types of grief is difficult. It doesn't happen in some linear form. One day you're fine, one day you're not. One day you're sociable, one day you're crazy,
and in the same day, you can be just across the spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's grief's hard, man.
It is hard. It is hard. And we all experience it. And we all experience it differently. And I think that's what I also had to learn, is I was just so annoyed or angry, or, people wanted me to experience my grief in a certain way. And I've had to just be like, no, this is how I'm dealing with it. But also I've had to accept that other people didn't know what to do when I was in so much grief. And for some people's reaction, I understand and it's fine. And others I've had to cut off and be like, no, I needed that support and you weren't there. Or I've asked for it in this particular way and that's what I needed. You weren't able to provide that. So I'm just going to take a step back.
What are some of the things that so you're doing this course at National Film and Television School
Yeah.
on producing your first feature? What are the sort of things that they've sort of taught you that so far has kind of, I guess, hit you really hard? You know, have they given particularly helpful advice on developing this story? What are the sort of things that they're teaching you that's going to help you get this to the next stage?
NFTS is amazing, by the way. If you have money to go there, you should, because it's fantastic training. It's absolutely amazing. The part that I just knew nothing about was like distribution, sales, finance. Like I'm just like rubbish at that stuff. So like when we started doing sessions on that, I'm like, oh, this is how it works. Oh, I didn't know you had to sell your film like this. Or I didn't know this is how you get funding. Or I didn't know this is how you do this. And I think NFTS has helped me to like push this into like a direction that makes sense. Well, first of all, we had to do a project where we had to pitch our film. I'm very grateful we did that, because I don't think I would have got to that stage if I didn't have this course. So I learned how to do a proper pitch deck and things like that, and just how to like be able to talk about the story in a very short amount of time, but get to the point. So if I'm pitching it to someone, you're going to understand everything about this film within 7 minutes of my time. Or your time.
Or less, because they teach you about the elevator pitch as well, which is the idea that you're maybe in a sales agency and they're like, well, yeah, I'm kind of interested in your film. What is it? And you're in an elevator going down, and you need to be able to convince them this is the story they should sell for you.
Yes.
You know, in that elevator.
Yes. And also like just how to make sense of it. I think as a person, you probably can tell from this interview, I just like go off and talk, and they've really taught me how to just get to the point, say this, this is what you're trying to get, this is the end result. Boom, 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 boom. So just being more organized. This course has really helped me to be more organized. Yeah, that's what I would say.
And have they given any useful advice about your specific story and how you can convey that?
Yes, they have. So I've had, I guess I'm allowed to say his name. We have an amazing teacher. His name is Jack Tarling. He is awesome. And he's spoken to me about my film and given me a few ideas on things that I can do. And I'm going to probably be connecting this to like a couple charities. And he kind of helped me to slow down in my thinking as well. I think I just started going, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. He's like, right, this is what you should do first. This is the order. And then think about this. So I think that has really helped me personally.
So it sounds like the course is kind of helping you focus in so that you can get to that end point of having the film actually made.
100%. I can say this boldly. This film would probably not be happening if I did not go to NFTS. Because I've met amazing people like Daniel. I've met like the most incredible people in my class. I literally look around and I'm like, wow, I'm in a room of like awesome people. There's days I'm like, what am I doing here? You know, like, who am I? But the fact that I am there also shows me that I can do this. And they're teaching me the skills that I need to push myself for tomorrow. Honestly, I don't think I'd be a good producer without NFTS. I'd be a mediocre one. So they're teaching me the skills that I really need to get to the top. Yeah, I believe that.
I think you're being too modest, but
really,
yeah, but
that's what I think.
Or maybe it's helping you progress faster.
Yeah. I'm learning so much more about the industry, and because I was so used to being in front of the camera, I didn't really know about the things that goes on behind it. So this is like opening my eyes to that and like broadening my horizons. Yeah.
So what's the goal for you? So you're gonna get the short made as a proof of concept. It's gonna be fantastic. They're gonna go, great. We're gonna make the feature. You're gonna make the feature. Do you want to be a full-time producer? Is that the end goal, or are you gonna do a combination of producing, acting, and stunts like you are now? Like, what's the sort of future plan?
I think for now I'm doing a lot more producing. So I'm actually shooting something else I'm producing tomorrow. So I'm focusing on producing. I think I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that right now I'm learning from the best school in the country how to be a top producer. I need to stay on that road for a little bit, but I'm still acting. I still have my agent. If things come up, I will do them. I'm still doing stunt work. I'm trying to now lose a bit more weight and be fitter so I can go a bit deeper into the stunt world and things like that. I've started doing some stunt coordination, which is really crazy that I've started doing that. But I have. So I think I'll still do a combination of stuff, but I think in this season that I'm in now, I think it's really important to concentrate. So I'm going to be concentrating more on producing and then just honing those skills a bit more, I think.
And what's lovely, I guess, is that if for this short that you're shooting tomorrow, is that if things come up, you can ask your class or ask your tutor because you're there. So you're learning, but you're also learning with real life examples.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I asked recently in our class about a film that somebody's asked me to produce. And I told them that I don't really care about the script, not in a rude way, just because I wasn't really passionate about it. And I didn't think it was strong enough. And I felt like I was kind of struggling with the director to get the script to a certain place. So I asked everyone, I was like, guys, what do you think about this? I told them the situation and I got really great advice. So it's amazing being around other people who understand the struggle, who are trying to accomplish similar things to you. And lots of people in our class have come with incredible like experience and backgrounds. I mean, you do amazing stuff. You've worked on really big sets and things like that. So sometimes we hear people's stories, experiences, advice, and I'm constantly learning, not just from the teachers, but also from my peers.
It's a massive thing,
amazing.
actually. You said near the start of the podcast about how when you're young, you just kind of want to take any job. And that actually does apply to acting, but also applies to producing.
Yeah.
So one of the key things I learned when I started out was I was just taking loads of projects because I was getting those opportunities to do it, or jumping on a script because someone said, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And actually a big part of learning to be a good producer is finding the stories that you want to tell, because then you're going to do the best job on them.
100%.
And it can be really, it's a really hard job being a producer.
Yeah.
And if you're producing something you're only half-heartedly in or interested in, you're not doing the script, the writer, the director, the team, any service. You know, you need to kind of be like, absolutely, we're going to make this happen. And that's the way you can produce really great films.
I would 100% agree with that, especially because sometimes you're going to be doing stuff that like, being a producer is a weird one. You would know. It's like, this is what you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, this is what you're supposed to do. Then all of a sudden, there's more to do. And you might be using more of your personal time or more hours, and you're losing sleep and you're having to think outside the box. And if you're doing all of that for something you don't care about, it's not going to go well. You're going to lose momentum. You're not going to care. You're going to start, being a bit lax. You're not going to care. You're not going to be bothered.
Yeah, every
So,
project's
yeah.
different. And so you need to be constantly adapting and working out what to do.
Yes.
Like you say, if you're not interested in doing that,
Yeah.
you're really going to struggle.
It also helps when you like the team that you're working with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time speaking to them. So, I mean, if there's someone you like categorically do not get on with, you might want to think differently about that, because it might be a painful journey. And I would have never thought that, but these are the kind of things that we're constantly learning about at NFTS. I feel like this has turned into like a NFTS advert or something.
Wherever you
but-
go, if you know, surrounding yourself by people who also love filmmaking and have their own varied backgrounds. Like
Yeah.
Daniel will have had it when he's worked as a location manager on different sets. Might be working with a different grip or a different cinematographer on different jobs, and he'll be learning different things from different people. So
Yes.
absolutely, you're making the most of that at film school, but it can happen anywhere. And in this industry, if you surround yourself by people who also love what we're doing, that's the way you're learning and growing constantly.
100%. Yeah. It's just nice to be with like-minded people, because I feel like it's quite a lonely road sometimes. Although we will say like, oh, it's oversaturated, there's loads of people. It's actually quite a small industry. Not everyone wants to do this. This is not easy. Constantly getting rejections is not something most people see as exciting,
And interesting with the rejections, you kind of touched on it earlier. It's like sometimes they're rejecting you personally, and that's hard, and you have your own challenges. Sometimes you get rejected, and it's not personal, and it's actually because there isn't enough work, or there isn't that specific type of work,
Yeah.
or actually this just happened to go with someone else, and actually you were fantastic, and so it's you're experiencing rejection that isn't personal
Yes.
always, and that in itself is a challenge. So
Yeah.
it's rough.
I think that's also what pushes people to start thinking of doing other things, like writing or producing their own work. And a lot of people, that's really helped them. There's so many people now who are really using social media to like create their own work, and then from there they end up in doing different things and bigger projects. So I think if you can, try to put something out there. If you can, it's not very easy, but if you've got a little bit of belief in yourself, just try and see what happens. I wish I had done that and had enough confidence in the past to do it, but it's all right. I'm doing it now, so it's fine.
And if it's terrible, try again.
Exactly. I mean, most people, when you start off, you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? Or like I look back to some of my old show roles and I'm like, oh, this is such bad acting. Like, what is that? You know, I've had comments from people as well, be like, oh, that's not a very strong scene, is it? At the time I was offended, but now I'm like, no, I get it.
Yeah, well, we're all growing, and you'll be getting better as a performer every year, just as you
Yeah.
are now as a producer.
And it's one of the greatest lies people like to believe is that you can be great without being shit, terrible, okay, good.
Mm,
And it sounds silly to say, but the failure is the point, because the failure is how you iterate. So you're like, I didn't like my volume, or I didn't like my tone, or I didn't like and it's by breaking those steps down that you can make those improvements.
Yeah.
But it is not you can just skip to already being improved.
Yeah.
And it's fail fast, fail often, learn as much as you can is always been.
Yeah, it's like, a really great runner isn't going to have, I think, like sprinter, rather than working on a film set. A really great sprinter is had to learn to walk. Then they had to learn, to run, and then they had to get better at running. And it's the same as filmmaking. We learn to walk first.
Yeah.
And then we learn to run, and then
Yeah.
hopefully then we start sprinting, and we got these amazing projects off the ground.
And that was interesting because that's like when we have a baby, strange subject, but and they're starting to learn to walk and they're falling over, we expect that and we encourage them and we nurture them and stuff. And then you go into the world as an adult, and that attitude towards failure is people, particularly they put it on themselves that they are somehow doing it wrong by the fact they're failing. Whereas that is just the nature of skill progression.
Yes, definitely.
And before we started this podcast, we did loads of recordings of just two of us chatting so that we could do all of the bad episodes before we started bringing guests on, as a sort of behind the scenes there for anyone listening. But
so if you think this is bad, I assure you it was worse.
But yeah, I'm a producer full time, and Daniel's a location manager, and we do this in our spare time, and we had to learn how to properly put together a podcast. It's exactly the same process as if you learn to be a film producer or an actor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I had one final question because I don't
Yes.
too much. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know if this is really advice, but it's just something my mum always says. And my mum's from Ghana, and she says this. She'll be like, 100 years is not forever. I'm like, Mum, she used to always say that. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, no matter how long something is awful or terrible, or you can't do it, it's not going to last forever. So when I feel sad, sometimes I'm like, 100 years is not forever.
My wife has this almost the same saying, but in reverse. She says, everything's temporary.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing. It's like, even if it lasts a long time, it's still only temporary.
Yeah, yeah. So and I don't know, just keep going. No matter how painful something is, just keep going. And like even just talking about this now could make me so emotional, because when I was young, I was really upset I didn't make it. I was like, I really wanted to make it by now. I have so many friends who are making it. I mean, I know some really awesome people who are doing really awesome things. And they will see this. They're just killing it. And I'm kind of happy I didn't make it then. So I feel like I'm a better human being now. And I think if I had made it then, I probably would have been arrogant. Or I probably would have been, I don't know, probably would have ruined it for myself or something. But I'm a better human being now. So I feel like now the things that I'm given, I can steward better. So if something's taking long, don't be disheartened. Just keep going.
I think there's lots of great lists online of famous people or really successful people who only made it in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s or later. And that's the thing, is we're all on our own journey, and at some point everything's going to align, and you'll be ready to take the right opportunity to make it for that success.
Exactly. Like you guys. I mean, in the next 5 years, who knows what this could be? I would have to come back.
That would be great.
We'll have you back on in 5 years. With
See
your
what happens.
BAFTA. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Abigail.
Thank
for
you so
coming
much,
on.
Thank you
Abigail.
so much for just being gracious and just listening and just giving me this platform to talk. I really appreciate it.
No, it's absolutely awesome to have you on.
Thank you.
And best of luck with the film.
Thanks so much. God bless.